Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. I am Andrew Phegley, and this is Knightline 133, coming to you from the 1148 studios. With me, as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. Andrew, remember the old Batman TV show with Adam West? UCF is 12-0. Do it with me. Wow! After beating Memphis 62-55 in double overtime. Kapow! But wait, there's more. UCF is in the Peach Bowl facing Auburn on New Year's Day. Bam! You're not helping me here.
Yeah.
But Scott Frost has resigned and is now Nebraska's head coach. Zonk! But UCF Athletics Director Danny White says Frost may coach the Knights in the bowl game. Bonk! And if that wasn't enough, who's UCF's next head coach? Clang! But first.
We are the champions. We are the champions.
that is right. UCF is the American champions after thrilling, heart-stopping, crazy win over Memphis. What an unbelievable 24 hours for UCF. We literally have 5 different things that we could lead this show with. UCF players deserve to be the lead, so first we relived the thrilling win. We have former Knights Nick Petty and Kyle Israel here to talk about the game, the aftermath, the bowl, and the coaching change, recruiting, and more.
Did we leave anything out?
Oh, boy. This is, I have tried to get my head around this entire thing all day, all week last week. I mean, I have not stopped thinking about all of this for at least the last week. It's crazy. All of it is crazy, and I've tried. Like I said, I've been thinking about this, and I tried to think about what I was going to say here, but it's all out the window because I can't even organize my thoughts. So whatever I say is going to come off the top of my head, I guess. I mean, there's some things that I've thought about, obviously, but I don't know. It's a whirlwind of feelings, number one. There are feelings of elatement from the win, but there's feelings of despair because of what went on after the win. And then, just all of it, there's just a million different things going through my mind. So I will try to be as professional and, well, maybe not professional, but
Maybe not that. Now, don't overpromise.
but we'll have fun here, and we still love our Knights, and
They're 12-0.
12-0. I mean,
Okay, they're undefeated. Wisconsin lost. Only undefeated team left standing.
right.
Up to 10th in both the AP and coaches poll, 12th in the playoff rankings. Come on.
And this
we just
is-
saw the 2 most exciting games back-to-back of the season. We
Right.
got to see.
right. And this is the thing that I don't want all of this other stuff to overshadow what they did, but we have to talk about it. There's guys that we've talked to on Twitter. Well, you might not want to listen because we're going to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. Can we get to it, though? Can we talk about the game first?
Go for it.
Well, no, I mean,
Start it off.
the game.
The game was awesome.
How about
was
Shaquem Griffin? Come
Absolutely.
on. Did this dude come to play?
Absolutely.
Was he
Yeah.
on fire?
He was absolutely on fire.
I mean, I by the way, now, I've melded you with him. When he does something, I just think of what your reaction is to seeing him. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
It was a perfect last game at Spectrum Stadium for Shaquem Griffin. And we said on the post game show last night, which was awesome. Kyle was there. If you haven't listened to it,
Wow,
please
you got
do.
calls from all over the place. I joined you a little bit
Calls
later than
from
usual.
all over the place. And it was, we said that Shaquem and Shaquille both will go down as some of the best players and some of the most magical players that ever played here. And I believe that they will. And there's still one more game for Shaquem, thank goodness. But I don't know. I hope everything from this magical season is not, ruined, number one, by the distraction of all of this. I'm having trouble getting words out.
Well, let me throw this one. I don't know if you saw this quote. Incredible stuff and a true inspiration, man. Wishing you all the best and looking forward to watching you. That's J.J. Watt saying that.
That's awesome.
And then ESPN's Todd McShay on the draft stock of Shaquem Griffin. He's going to get drafted. He'll be a day 3 pick.
Hopefully before that, but day 3 is fine.
But again,
I'll take day 3.
High praise.
Yeah.
Feature on him before the game, before the broadcast on ABC. Ratings, by the way, up over the previous American Athletic Conference Championship game. UCF well viewed in back-to-back games. And now, a couple of weeks away, facing Auburn. By the way, the early line. Did you know what the early line is on that? What do you think?
We're a 14-point underdog.
8.5.
Really? Wow.
I like that.
I like that too. That's good. That makes me feel a little bit better. I just wonder who's going to coach this game and all that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know where we want to go from here. But
62 points in double overtime. There were some mistakes made. You think, by the way, if they hadn't made the mistakes that they did, the turnovers in the red zone, we might never have gotten to overtime.
Yeah, there were definitely mistakes that were made, but I said this after the game on the post-game show, that this was the most offense that I had ever seen ever in a football game, period. And
what was it, almost 1,500, right?
Almost 1,500, 1,472 or something like that, offensive yards.
The over-under was 80.5.
Mackenzie Milton, 28 of 40, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Riley Ferguson, 30 of 42, 471 yards, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. So,
by the way, a guy people booed last year has erased a lot of names and a lot of columns in the UCF record book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, or he's moved up past those guys throughout the season.
Yeah, I know that he's the single-season record holder for a couple things. We'll have to see when
touchdowns now.
Yeah, I haven't seen the official stuff on that, so we'll see about that. But just absolutely incredible. Otis Anderson, 113 yards, 15 carries.
Dude's fast.
Yeah. Mackenzie Milton, 11 carries for 68 yards, a touchdown. Adrian Killens, 13 for 51. We haven't seen him a lot lately. I think he's injured personally. I keep saying that. I think there's something that's holding him back, and they're not using him as much as they did, so that's why they've gone to Otis. Otis is awesome, though. I love Otis Anderson. I was saying it from the beginning. They're very close to being almost the same player, Killens and Anderson. Anderson definitely has that speed.
And every week we see Traquan Smith catch a pass, and you go, how did he do that? How does he
absolutely.
Get that ball?
So Traquan, 6 catches for 161 yards. Dredrick Snelson, 9 catches for 145 yards.
By the way, he redeemed himself after some issues there with a fumble, and the ball was batted out of his hands. But
absolutely,
they go right back to him, though. Huh?
Right.
No loss of confidence in him, and he steps back up.
Jordan Akins, 4 catches for 66 yards. And then, of course, the defensive stuff. Pat Jasinski, who has been insane this year. I love that guy, and I can't wait to see him back in this whole thing. 13 total tackles for him, 8 solo. Titus Davis, 10 tackles for him, 5 solo, and a sack. Trey Neal, of course, with the interception that sealed the deal, which an unlikely guy personally to. He had the first interception and the last interception of the regular season.
How about
that? of the anything but a bowl game.
Yeah.
So
how about that? Boy, some questionable play calling, and boy, what was Riley Ferguson looking at when he threw that ball? But good thing that he did.
I think he was looking at Shaquem Griffin coming up on him is what he was looking at. I think that he heard footsteps and then saw he got griffined right there.
I mean, there were busted coverages again, and this is back-to-back games where we saw that. Boy, if there was ever a unit that could use a couple of weeks off after playing 11 consecutive weeks without the bye, It's the defense.
Yeah. I still think that this defense is awesome. I do. I just think they're worn out. And I think that this is, going to be a perfect opportunity to let them regroup a little bit before this bowl game. I just wonder whose head is going to be in this and whose head is not going to be in this. And
so much has happened in such a short period of time.
If they can salvage this thing, I hate to see us go into a bowl game with so many questions, number one. I hope that there is a head coach named by the time that, I would think, by the time of the bowl game.
By New Year's Day, yeah.
We've got to get on recruiting. We've got to get on recruiting. There's all kinds of stuff. I have tons of clips that we're going to play here tonight. Let's start with the ones from after the game, I guess. I know that there's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy with us, but I'm going to play clips from Scott Frost because he was our head coach when this game ended. Here's Scott Frost's final opening comments after the game.
I don't know if words can put it, if I can find the words. First thing, Memphis is a really good football team. They're well coached. Their quarterback and that receiver are special. They're the second highest scoring offense in the country for a reason. We're the highest for a reason. And my hat's off to them. It's a shame that anybody had to lose that game. But I've said it before, what these guys have done is it's not just improbable, it's impossible in 2 years to get where they are. And it's a special group.
Coach, you've spoken about how much this team has meant to you over the past 2 years. You've been very emotional at this game. Just what you could say about the guys that have joined you up here and about the team overall.
Well, Kenzie I had to go get from Hawaii, and can't believe how much he's grown up since he's been here. But he's like a son or a little brother to me. And Trylko was a great player before I got here. We're just using him. He's got a lot of good football ahead of him, and he's one of the best teammates I've ever seen. And some of the things he does in practice to sacrifice and get better for the team. I'll be a fan of his as long as he's playing. I think it'll be a long time. 18 over there has some of the most courage and the biggest heart I've ever seen. He's going to make a lot of money playing this game. Can't wait to watch it. Trey, nice catch. He's one of several guys that we thought the defense might take a step back this year after losing a bunch of other guys, and not with guys like him on this watch. These guys are special to me. The only time we got stopped in the first half, we stopped ourselves. We fumbled, and this kid hasn't made any bad decisions all year, so he was probably due for one. And their kids made plays. I was a little worried that the same thing was happening in reverse from the first game, that we were getting down there and turning it over in the red zone. That's how we won the last game. But this team's resilient, man. We've been through lightning delays and hurricanes and missed games and 12 straight weeks of games, and these guys have answered the call and risen to the challenge every time that they've had an opportunity to, and we came back out and put some points up, and it was enough. This has been fun. This game was fun. Last game was fun. This season's been fun, and it's been the best year of my life.
All right, so there you have it. That's the last the opening statement after a game that we know of. Maybe not, I guess, now that I say that, of Coach Frost. But you could tell, obviously, that Coach Frost was torn up there. He was, had tears in the eyes and sniffling and all that stuff. He was visibly upset about the whole thing, and he was from the minute that the final whistle sounded. I guess we'll talk a little bit more about this later.
Well, there was joy
obviously.
there, though. I mean, he celebrated with the team on the field. And
Absolutely.
He celebrated with the team in the locker room. A crowd surfed, or surfed the crowd of the players in the locker room. So there were certainly great moments of joy and confetti and fanfare until there wasn't.
Yeah. Well,
what other bites do we have? I mean, you talked about these guys are spent. That's what Trey Neal and Shaquem Griffin shared. They're just they're tired.
Speaking of Trey Neal, let's hear from him real quick on what happened before that final play.
I just told the big boys up front, I was just like, look, if there's a fumble, if there's a pick, just fall down. don't do anything else. And, I mean, we call it bingo situation. We're up, we make a turnover, game's over. So, I mean, we just told them guys. Actually, Quan Burkett told us, he said, you know what, y'all boys, I love all of y'all. And, you know, that goes a long way, just thinking how much we love each other. And I think that's why we prevail, just the love that we have for each other and our coaches have for us and we have for the coaches.
All right, then I got a clip of Shaquem before that last play as well.
You know, we was meant to be here. It was supposed to happen like this. It wouldn't be no other way. You wouldn't want it to be easy. You know, you're supposed to work for everything you want in the world. And, you know, that what it was today. Once he said that, we went back on the field. We knew that it wasn't going to be easy. We knew it was going to be, you know, adversity. But we had to take it upon ourselves, like, you know what, let's fight through this. And, you know, of course it was tired. Of course it was tough. But, you know, we had to dig deep. Not for myself, but we had to dig deep for each other. I mean, once you fight for something, once you fight for somebody, you know it can bring the best out of you.
All right, well, I think that's what it did for sure. Is it brought the best out of all those guys, and you know, it's amazing how you can go through a football game and you can go through that entire thing, but it all comes down to the last play on a lot of these games. And I remember just having moments of absolute excitement and then absolute, you know, we're just looking at the guy next to us, you know, oh my God, what just happened?
Well, that was the way that was in the Black Friday game.
Right.
The touchdown scored, and then the Cows go back and they score, and you're like, elation to deflation.
I feel like with this team, though, it's one of those things where, you know, somehow it was almost like that 2013 team in a way, where we won so many of those games on the last play. It hasn't been like that with this team up until the last 2 weeks. But every time in those last 2 weeks, they have made it happen somehow.
And there are,
who would have thought that these games would have ended like this? Who would have thought that these games would have so much offense in them and so many special moments that will be remembered, I think, here for a very long time. I mean, we're going to be doing this show for a very long time, and I'm sure that we will reference these moments for years to come. You know, I mean, it's just, this stuff is storybook stuff, to be honest with you.
Well, we talked about the return by Mike Hughes a week or so ago.
Yep.
And how we remember the catch from J.J. Wharton. You see this interception by Trey Neal. But there were so many moments in this game. A Memphis kicker missing kicks.
Yep.
Right? How consequential does that become? Memphis on that drive where they fumble the ball.
Shaquem Griffin blocking a kick.
Right?
Basically, and then it get called back because the time ran out on that.
How about the delay of game penalties?
That's what I'm talking about.
Because of the fans,
right?
Being very loud and disruptive.
And I have to hand it to Night Nation. I mean, I was very pleased with what was out there yesterday.
Now, they announced 41+, highest ever for an American Athletic Conference championship game in the 5-year history of the league. But as the game went along, what empty spaces were filled in by students.
Yeah.
When we got to the end there, it was packed.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not quite as packed as the Black Friday game, which was a hard sellout.
Interesting, in my seats over there, I tweeted at one point, you know, having guys behind me that think they're football coaches or whatever in the beginning. Well, I soon realized that these were students sitting behind me, even in my section, which is not a student section. In fact, it has little signs up right in front of me because I'm on the first row that say these, you know, no students. It has a sign through there. Yeah, it says no students because it borders, you know, the student section there. So, but yeah, they were everywhere, and that's cool. That's fine. You know, I'm glad that they let everybody in with a student ID. You're good to go, and I think that should be the policy. To be honest with you,
players feed off of that.
Absolutely, fill in the spots that you don't have sold because there are tons of students here that probably want to come to those games, and I don't know how it works, but I know that just they need to be there. They need to be there. We need to fill that stadium as much as we possibly can for every single game, and I think that these last 2 games showed what it's like when it's like that. Not that we haven't seen it before. I'm not saying that we've seen the stadium full, but the place is loud. It's a quite an environment. You know, I went over the second half, and I sat in the cabana with Travis, and it's normally I sit in 205, so I'm on the first row in 205. But I went over there, and a little bit deeper, we're 6 rows up over there in the cabana at the 40, I guess. And it is extremely loud over there when the place is full and rocking. I've sat over there for other games where it wasn't, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But I just noticed, and I said to Travis, I'm like, wow, it is loud over here. I mean, it's loud the deeper you get in, so I can only imagine on that field how the sound projects down there. It has to just be amazingly loud. Anyway, what I was saying was I really think that Night Nation did very well the last couple games. We got more clips here. We got tons of clips. Let's hear this one. This is Shaquem talking about the feeling of when it all kind of hit him.
It's amazing when you have teammates like mine and coaches like mine. They put you in a situation where you can't do nothing but just be good for yourself and be the best person that you can be. And, I'm just grateful, man. I'm so thankful for everything that came our way. I'm so grateful to have guys like this. I mean, I love them with all my heart, man. It's nothing that I can say or do, but I would not change this for nothing in the world, man. I'm just enjoying it. And, I mean, it finally hit me. I mean, I've been asked questions that haven't hit you yet. We've been undefeated. I haven't hit me yet, and we made history. I think it hit me today once we won that game. I mean, I just let it all go, and I mean, I can tell you it felt amazing.
I just saw on Twitter, if there's ever a statue of Shaquem Griffin, it should be him with his arms raised after that, game. And it was awesome that he was able to have a game like that as his last one at Spectrum Stadium in the Bounce House. It was awesome. I got to talk to him a little bit after, and, I don't think everything had sunk in at that point to everybody. It was a couple hours after the game. And
it was
and
a
all
lot
that.
to process.
Yeah, absolutely a lot to process. All right, what else do I have from this game? Here is Trey Neal again on, this is kind of weird, but I think we mentioned it before. He had the first interception of the year and the last interception of the year in Spectrum Stadium as well.
I don't really like the individual credit. I mean, this game it was a long overtime game, and these guys all fought for it. It was just, our Coach Chen's always talks about being in the right place at the right time, and I really took that to heart over this past 2 years that he's taught me, and I just knew if I do my job, then eventually the plays come to me, and I did my job, so that's why I made the play. Anybody else in there would have did their job, they would have made the same play. So, I mean, I believe in these guys, and I know they believe in me.
That was kind of weird, that clip, because somebody was talking right there over the entire thing.
And that was because of where I was seated. I can tell you that was Scott Frost talking to Mackenzie Milton.
Oh, okay.
So they were all because it's an American Athletic Conference championship
they were
event.
All at the same.
They were all at the same table. So it was the 4 players and Scott Frost.
Well, maybe I'll have to go back and isolate that and see what they was.
Yeah, they were talking
there.
At the
Hopefully
end.
He wasn't saying, "Hey, follow me to Nebraska." I hope to God that's not what he was saying there. The only clip that I have left here
in this round
of talking about the game, this is Scott Frost's final comments, his final statement as head coach of the Knights. Maybe. But this was his final comments as far as that press conference.
Have you coached your final game here at UCF?
I'm going to talk to the team first. The hard thing about all this is they should give you time after the season to make decisions, and they don't. These things happen at the wrong time. And the one thing I wasn't going to do is sacrifice my commitment to this team. So I've been game planning, I've been coaching, doing the best that I can for these guys, and then decisions land on you. And they're hard decisions. I love this community. I love UCF. I love Orlando. No matter what I do, I'm probably going to retire here. I don't think that I'm going to sell houses or anything if I leave. This university, Dr. Hitt, Danny White, UCF, Orlando, it's an unbelievable place with unbelievable potential, and you're seeing it this year with these guys. So So this place has given me more than I've given this place.
Okay, well, there it is as far as that goes, and I think that is our last Scott Frost comments that we will have on this show tonight.
This show.
Yeah, this show.
Gotcha.
We'll see what happens.
And then, of course, shortly thereafter, a press release came out saying that he had officially resigned, and Troy Walters is now the interim head coach. And Danny White addressed the media where it called back that there would be a press availability with Danny White. So it's been a lot going on. Great joy.
I got clips from all that, too. Do we want to play those clips
if you
here?
think there's something in there that's...
Well, let's hear what Danny White had to say in that opening press conference.
Wow, what a game. Holy cow. Conference champs. That was exciting. If that's not Power 6 football, I don't know what is. I think we were ranked, 14, and Memphis was 20. Both those teams are better than that. That was unbelievable football. Really proud of our team, of our student athletes, our coaches, and really proud of our conference. I think the American Athletic Conference is coming fast, and that was an awesome championship game. We've obviously announced that Scott has chosen to go back to his alma mater. Very difficult decision for him, obviously, as you saw some of the emotion here on the press conference following the game. But I can say I've been talking with Scott throughout the season, and he's been conflicted, and the reason he's been conflicted is because he sees how special a place this is. This is a unique opportunity that we have here to build a perennial top 25 athletic department, a perennial top 25 football program. That's the charge. The charge hasn't changed. We're still the fastest growing university and the fastest growing city in America with the best recruiting base. This place has more potential, I think, than any athletic department in the country. I want to thank Scott and his wife Ashley for their contributions to the program. I don't think anybody expected the turnaround to happen in just 2 years. And obviously the opportunity and the pull to go back home. And I understand the connection with one's alma mater. So I understand his decision. And now it's my job to prepare as I have been. I think any good athletic director is proactive and prepared, and I can tell you I've been proactive and I'm prepared. I think we have the most attractive football opening in the nation right now, with a young roster, with a ton of talent. Obviously the number one scoring offense in the country, with most of those student athletes returning for next year. And this is just a very desirable place to be. This football job was extremely attractive, and there was a ton of a demand 2 years ago coming off of 0-12. Now coming off of a 12-0, I'm expecting, or I already know, that there's even more interest and more demand. So I will meet with, I'm going to conduct a national search, and I'm going to meet with our team here shortly. I just spoke to the whole team, and right now they're voting on team reps that I'll meet with. Same thing I did the last time. I had to do that over video conference from Buffalo. But that's what I do for all of our coaching searches, meet with our team, hear from them. I want their input on what attributes they would look for in a leader. That helps me understand where their heads are at. And then obviously I'll introduce the new coach to them as well. So the search will start with our team and will end with our team. Our core values, our number one core value is student-athlete success, and we live by that. So they're our number one priority. It's going to be a fast search. We got the first year of the early signing date. That's important. Having a new direction for this program is important. But Scott and his staff are committed to this team through the bowl game. So we'll figure out what that means later this week and get into the details of that. But we kind of got two things happening. We're looking for a new coach for the new direction for 2018 and beyond, and for recruiting. But our current football staff and Scott are committed as they should be, and they understand these kids deserve their commitment, because we got a really special opportunity to make this season even more historic by winning the New Year's Day bowl game that we're expecting to be invited to tomorrow. So that's just my opening comments. Happy to take any questions, but before I do that, I'll just conclude with, after this press conference will be my last public comments, and Tom introducing our new head coach to you guys.
All right. Well, Danny White has his job cut out for him. He has his work cut out for him, I guess I should say there.
Well, but I'll tell you what. I felt confident in Danny White before this. I had been saying on Twitter and in conversations with folks in White I Trust, I feel more confident in Danny White after this. He talked about having open dialogue with Scott Frost throughout the season, and as Nebraska's fortune sunk and UCF's continued to soar, it looked as if though something might happen, and he said that he was prepared, that he was beginning that process in the eventuality that this might come. So, again, while this has been a story that has really taken over us as a fan base over the last week, this is not new information, right? You would not want your athletic director to be hearing about it on Knightline and social media.
And it didn't happen like that.
Yeah.
I will say that I realized that was a long clip, like a 4-minute long clip, but I wanted everybody to hear that maybe didn't have the chance to hear it somewhere else. There's a couple other things that I want you guys to hear that he said. This one right here is him talking about Scott Frost supposedly going to coach this bowl game. Here's what Danny White had to say about that.
We're going to work on the details on what happens on game day of the bowl game. But Scott is going to not be in the state for some of this time period, obviously. So the team needs a leader day to day, and that'll be Troy Walters, and we'll figure out exactly how the day of the bowl game unfolds. But Scott is committed to do whatever the right thing to do is to give us the best chance to win the bowl game. I wanted whatever was give us the best chance to win the game, and I think that we'll still figure out what that means again for game day. But certainly the staff that's preparing this team for the 12 games that we've won probably know what they're doing to prepare them for the 13th game, and I felt like that was the right thing to do. A new coach coming in is going to be focused on building their staff. And obviously recruiting.
All right, so I know that there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions about this. My personal opinion, this is not a normal thing. This does not normally happen, and I would assume that this is something that Scott Frost worked out before he signed any contract. I'm assuming that this is something that, because you have to have permission from both. I think we talked about this at some point. Anyway, so it seems that Scott Frost and this staff will be able to do the bowl game.
It seems very complicated logistically.
It is complicated logistically.
But I don't know what the other option is.
I want what Danny White said right there. I want whatever we can do to make sure that this bowl game gets played with the best of the abilities of the players and the best staff to give them the chance to do that. That's all I want. I don't care who it is. I just want us to win that game because that game is important. This bowl game is against the type of teams that we want to be playing all the time, and we don't get the chance to very often. So whoever coaches it, I just want us to have the best opportunity to win the game. And I don't want all of this stuff, just like we've been saying, I didn't want all this stuff to, be over the players' heads and all that. I guess they did a fairly good job of this not bothering the players before the game.
Or the players did a very good job of stepping up and not letting it bother
them.
Which was our concern going into the game.
Right.
Would this be a distraction on the players?
Right.
And much credit to
Whoever,
Shaquem Griffin, Rory Coleman,
Right.
other players, the team meeting that said, we've got goals, we're not there yet.
And they've still got goals, and I know that the players, I spoke to some of them personally, and some of them said, we don't want to play this game unless Coach Frost is coaching it. And I put a quote on the message board the other night that said, we want to finish what we started with our coach. We want to finish the season that we started with our coach. So that's the deal. How that happens, who knows how that happens. But,
Frost was asked about that during his introductory press conference at Nebraska on Sunday, and he carried that same line that Danny White said and that Troy Walters said as well during his Peach Bowl interviews. We're not quite sure yet. It seemed like they were all on the same page of, we're not quite sure yet how this is going to work. If he were still here, it's not as if though they would be practicing Monday, Tuesday for the Peach Bowl.
Right.
They've got classes, they've got finals, and this is a team that needs a few days off, right, before they start, getting back into prep. But there are valuable bowl practices that occur that every team wants that extra practice. Now you have a potential lame duck situation where you don't have your coach in to evaluate talent and, really be looking at guys. I mean, so that benefit of those extra practices, I don't think we get to realize. But this has been a whirlwind season, everything coming much earlier than people anticipated, and a lot of young underclassmen got reps and got playing time and have been pivotal players on this team. So maybe it's overvalued, the importance of those extra practices leading up to the bowl, and maybe they can step back in what would be normal prep week for a game,
Yeah, and
with same game plans and,
And we still don't know. We've been trying to find out anything we can. We have no idea who is going to be the new coach of this team, and I know that Danny White's working on it. He said that he was working on it. I know he's been working on it for a while. This isn't new news to him by any means.
There are names. Kevin Sumlin, formerly of Houston, just out at Texas A&M, is a name that has been mentioned quite a bit in the last couple of days. But, take you back 2 years. Just 2 years ago, Dino Babers on a Sunday night we were talking about was the hot name.
Right.
And, of course, that didn't happen. And if Sumlin doesn't come through, White has looked at other people. And he talked about the importance of character and how he wants someone that can acclimate with this offense.
And a question that I liked, and I'm not sure who asked it, but somebody asked him if he was bitter, if this was a bittersweet moment. And this is one of my favorite things that he had to say.
A bittersweet day? No, we just won a conference championship. They're taking confetti out of my hair just a short while ago. I'm excited for our team. I'm excited for our kids. I'm excited for Scott. It's a unique opportunity to go coach back at his alma mater. And we'll turn the page on this tomorrow, and we'll start focusing on preparing for a bowl game once we find out for sure which one that'll be. I think today, it's not bittersweet. I think it's a historic moment in the growth of our program. I think about today, it's really the last 7 or 8 days. That South Florida atmosphere of that stadium was unbelievable. I think that's the most UCF fans we've ever had in that stadium. And then today was probably the second most UCF fans we've ever had in that stadium. So I think that was this whole week has been a great step as a program towards where we want to be. That thing should be sold out on a season ticket basis, and we're going to keep grinding until that happens.
Again, in White, I trust. Now, we opened the show, you talked about you weren't sure how you felt. And I think if you just surf the message boards and social media, people are conflicted. This is one of the greatest moments in UCF history. We watched back-to-back games.
And it's like a freaking funeral.
Well,
in a way.
It's mixed. It's just mixed emotions. So I've been jotting down thoughts. And I usually don't do this, but I'm going to read these thoughts because it's how I feel about this. It said people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I've been thinking a lot about that with context of Scott Frost. Certainly won't be for a lifetime, right? We know that now. Barely for a season. 2 years, we hardly knew you. But here is how I have processed it. Thank you, Coach Frost, for bringing UCF fast and UCF fierce, a fresh approach, a renewed attitude, video game-like scoring, exciting moments. We will never forget. Ever, 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 this magical season. 12-0, only undefeated team in the country, no matter what happens in that Peach Bowl. This has been a season to never, ever forget. You have left us wanting more, dreaming of more. However, I get to be a little ticked off too, okay?
Yeah.
Which is usually your role a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit more diplomatic. But really? Scott Frost, you wore a red shirt when you arrived at the stadium Saturday for the American Athletic Conference Championship game? Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you wore? Friday, you wore a UCF stacked logo tie to the AAC press conference. Saturday, you arrived with a red shirt. Okay, I saw it. Really? You met with Nebraska's athletic director during UCF's road game at Temple. That's not rumor now. We know that now very clearly because Nebraska's athletic director said it.
And did he have the permission to do that?
That's a different matter.
That's another thing.
You could have and should have insisted none of this break during the game. No press releases from your new employer. He could have asked for that. He could have insisted upon it. He did not, or it was not honored. So you stepped on the celebration. You made players go from tears of joy to some tears of uncertainty. Okay? And that Scott Frost controlled. All right? Sunday, your new boss fawned all over you, acknowledging he's texted with you since that clandestine meeting in Philly. And your coaches, UCF's coaches, were recruiting on the side for your new employer. Right?
And that was tweeted by some
new recruits to the University of Nebraska.
And that's not appropriate either, and there could be an NCAA violation there, too.
Again, I'm not accusing them of that, but shame on you. So I wish you well. I do not begrudge your move. You do go home with rich history, right? I don't begrudge that of him at all. I thank you, Scott Frost, for what you brought to UCF. However, I believe you could have shown more loyalty, your word, Coach Scott Frost, a little more class than you did. While you said you saw how special this place is, just remember it was successful, special before you, a growing university, big as we so often hear in UCF's new commercial. UCF, it is that special place, always has been.
You said it good.
So I'm a little mixed about it, too.
Your words kind of got me a little teary there almost. This is like, to me, and I think most people can put it this way. Most people can identify with this. This is like a breakup of a girlfriend, and I mentioned this later with Kyle Israel. Because Kyle Israel texted me that same thing today. For most, that can be one of the most heart-wrenching things that there is. This is what it feels like to me. We've done all this beautiful stuff together. We've had so much fun, and then you leave us for the better-looking guy or whatever.
I'm not sure that's what Nebraska is in this analogy, but I got you.
Whatever. I haven't been left too many times for the better-looking guy, by the way. I'm usually the better-looking guy taking the girl. But anyway, that's another story. But I don't blame Scott Frost for doing what he did as far as going home to his alma mater. I am from Kansas, and I know how big college football is to those people. Especially in Nebraska, you have no pro sports. You have farm teams for pro sports, but they're Kansas City's, as the Royals in Omaha. So I understand that Nebraska is his alma mater, number one. I will always be a Kansas Jayhawk, even though I'm a huge, huge UCF fan. And I've adopted UCF, obviously, as my... But I will never stop being a Kansas fan, no matter how bad they suck. So I don't blame him as far as that goes. I do blame him for the way that some things were handled, and we tried to get it out of him. I don't know how many times. Are you going to be the coach? You did a great job of trying to do that on the teleconference last week.
Which was just a week ago.
Right. I think that the players at some point should have known more about this. This was all about the players from the beginning. It's all about the players in the end. They're still here. He's not. So I'm not mad and I'm not upset about him going home. I'm hurt that he went home because I believe that what we have here is better than what is there. I believe the situation, I believe the players, and I believe what UCF has is better than what's there. They may not be able to come up with the money that is there. I honestly don't think that it was about the money for Scott Frost. I believe that it's about the money for his coaching staff more than for him, and that's what he said the entire time. I believe that. And that's cool. It's all good. I'm not gonna root for Nebraska. I'm not.
Well, you didn't root for him before.
I never will.
From Kansas.
I never did, and I never will.
Yeah, you weren't going to.
I hope it goes well for him, and I hope that, like he said, I hope he comes back to Orlando one of these days and retires here, because it's a wonderful place. But good luck, but that's it. And that's
Except when it's not. We've got a
and that's
couple
the
more
deal,
weeks
yeah.
until this bowl game.
That's what makes this even weirder, because
You've broken up, but you're still seeing each other?
you
Is that
broke
it?
up, but you had this cruise planned.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
So we've got to go on that cruise because we both spent a bunch of money.
Yeah,
Is your boyfriend going to let you go on the cruise with me? Is Nebraska going to let him coach? But what about my dad? Doesn't think that I should take you on the cruise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a weird situation. So I'm trying not to be pissed off. I'm trying not to be sad.
You've been everywhere,
I'm
though.
trying not. I have, and it's kind of how you deal with things like that.
I've watched, I don't remember now what all those stages of grieving are.
I'm a pretty
But I
solid.
saw you in denial. You were on the AAC Daily saying 100% he's not leaving.
That was before.
I know.
Was before a lot of stuff happened.
But denial.
And that was denial. I will admit that it was denial.
You've
and
had
I don't
anger.
think that he would have taken any other job out there.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I do not think that, and I will stand by that 100%.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And that was my 100% when it was being asked more about that other stuff than this, because that was before the coach in Nebraska was fired, and that I believe maybe that was before the AD was fired. I'm not sure. But that's where I was thinking. It was about, going anywhere else besides Nebraska. So I will stand by that. I was wrong.
You've been angry.
I've been all those things. Let me tell you guys something about me. And I don't go into my personal stuff very often, but let me tell you that I have gone through in my life a lot of stuff that, number one, I'm a paramedic, and not a lot of people know that. So I've dealt with a lot of things that should have been emotional for myself, and a lot of things that weren't emotional for me, which probably should have been. I'm a passionate person, and I will always tell you what I'm thinking. And I think that a lot of people enjoy that. They obviously listen to the show, and, so, yeah, I go through all the emotions, and I've gone through all the emotions this week. I have. I've been pissed off. I've been sad. All that. But it's going to be okay. I believe in Danny White, like you said. Danny White has given us no reason not to believe that he will make an awesome hire here.
Remember, we're just 2 weeks removed from him re-upping his commitment to UCF.
Right. So I know this is going to be a long, long episode, and we're going to go through it a little bit again.
Stories.
We're going to go through it a little bit again because coming up here is Kyle and Nick, and we talked a little bit about it with them, both of them having a little bit different emotions as well. It's therapy for everybody to talk about this. So the people that say, don't talk about this on your show tonight, don't let this be all that you talk about on the show, I'm sorry, but this is our show. And we're going to talk about this because this is what is important to all of us. There's been many, many emotions that everybody has shown on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. It needs to be talked about. We're all up in the air. We have no idea what's going to happen to the team that we live and die by. What happens on that football field? What happens in the basketball arena? On the softball field? This stuff is what is important to many of us that have spent tons of money on gear, all of our UCF stuff. I mean, people that I mean, I don't have nearly the interest a lot of people do in this whole thing, but I do because this is what I've chosen to take on.
And people are spending an awful lot of money to be in Atlanta on New Year's Eve for bowl tickets.
And they should.
And they are passionate.
And they should. So that's why we're talking about it. That's why we're continuing to talk about it. It's important to all of us.
We got to get it out of our system.
Absolutely. So good luck, Scott Frost. Good luck. I won't be watching. I don't think a lot of other people will be watching. But good luck. We'll see where it takes you. We hope that it gets you that NFL job or whatever that you want, and maybe we can root for you at that point or whatever. Mm-hmm. But good luck, and hopefully after Kyle and Nick's interview here, we can stop talking about it. But I don't think that that's going to happen because we'll see what happens with this bowl game, I guess.
And
I don't
so
know.
the very positive news on the heels of winning the AAC championship is the invitation to be in the 50th Peach Bowl and playing Auburn. Media availability with interim head coach Troy Walters today, as well as a conference call with Auburn's coach Gus Malzahn and Coach Walters. And we have sound and reaction from that, as well as best we can. We turn a page from the wonderful celebration of the game, and then a week and a month of bowl prep that's coming.
All right, so let's do this. Let's play a commercial here. Let's reset, and we'll come back and start talking about that stuff.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, as we said at the outset, UCF finishes 12th in these playoff rankings, but still, the American gets that New Year's Bowl, and it will be UCF, and I got a chance to record the announcement on ESPN in what took forever as a show. It went on for hours.
One more New Year's Six matchup, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Can't wait. Auburn's going to go right back to Atlanta and take on UCF, the American champions.
Scott Frost and his staff, they're going to coach this game. This is an opportunity for him to make one last statement. The speed, the athleticism of UCF, they're going to spread Auburn out. Auburn is great inside the front seven. I want to see them in space. There's no doubt about it. Who will be the most motivated team? UCF will be motivated for this game. Will Auburn be? I just don't know.
Kerryon Johnson's shoulder also. Can we see Kerryon Johnson healthy in this game? No doubt. It'll get interesting if he is, because they'll have an opportunity to keep UCF's offense, who scores a ton of points, leads the country in points, on the sideline. And Jesse, you said it before, your offense, if you're Auburn in this situation, will be your best defense. Get the offense on the field.
Two things. Will Gus Malzahn be the coach? Yep. Will he be in Arkansas?
I tried to get Reese to ask him about Arkansas.
He said after the game yesterday, after the loss to Georgia, Gus said, I want to be the coach at Auburn, but there was certainly some latitude in that answer. It was not definitive. I do wonder, I agree, UCF is going to be so motivated as the only undefeated team, and they're really good. Yep. They're capable of beating teams, whether the opposition's fully engaged or not. But there will be distraction for the UCF staff. Yep. Scott Frost with a new job, hiring a staff. UCF hiring a replacement. How will they be able to respond and stay locked in, even if they are motivated?
I worry about the defense, too. Yeah. UCF having to slow down, especially if Kerryon Johnson is 100% healthy, or at least close to that, because we saw in the first Georgia game what he means to this offense. He can carry the ball between 30 and 35 times. He can lead them in receiving in a particular game. In the SEC championship game, just basically one-armed running back, didn't run with the same type of authority, and how that affected Jarrett Stidham. I think UCF can score points. My question is, can UCF's defense slow down?
This is going to be a real mindset game, because you just talked about when you lose the SEC championship, you're a little bit down. Then you look at your opponent, you're playing a group of five. You can't really, no matter what they say, we're playing UCF. Look at the film. Look how fast they are. Look at this quarterback. We'll be there on game day. And then they show up, they get embarrassed. Or there's the Hawaii-Georgia matchup where Hawaii just got bounced in a hurry. This one feels like one of those group of fives that can play. I mean, they feel like athletically, if they show up, and I just got a feeling that Scott Frost, after all they went through, all the emotion, he'll have his team zeroed in, ready. They're going to want to finish the right way.
All right, so the announcement comes in the afternoon, and very quickly the Peach Bowl sets up a teleconference with Auburn's coach and UCF's interim coach Troy Walters. Hopped on that and asked a couple of questions. Some opening statements, though, from Coach Walters and Coach Malzahn.
Yeah, we too are excited to be playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl 50th anniversary. We accept the invitation. When our players found out today that we would be playing in that game and playing Auburn, they were excited. It's been a wonderful season, a magical season, and we look forward to playing a great Auburn team there in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and the guys are going to prepare, and we just look forward to everything that the bowl represents and the opportunity to play there in Atlanta.
We're extremely excited to play in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl 50th anniversary. Atlanta's just right up the road. We've got a lot of fans that live in Atlanta, and that's kind of been a home away from home. Excited to return back there. The stadium is unbelievable, and then get a chance to play the best offense in college football and the only undefeated team, in college football left. I think it's a big honor for us. I know our players, our coaches, and our fans will be excited, and looking forward to it.
All right, Trace was also on this call. We were both on it. Trace asked a couple questions because that's what he does. And so he asked one of Coach Malzahn and one of Coach Walters. And so here those are.
Trace, Trylko, Knightline. Coach Malzahn, how much do you know about UCF? And they're the top-scoring team in the country, back-to-back, very high-scoring games. What do you think about them going into the matchup?
Yeah, they got a lot of speed. I got a chance to watch them on TV a couple times this year. Very impressive. Of course, the wins against Memphis, my buddy Mike Norvell spoke so highly of them and what kind of team they are. And, of course, Coach Frost and his staff just did a super job. And, they're the number one scoring offense in the country. And they've earned that. They got a lot of weapons. And, anytime you're undefeated, that is a very, very special thing. And so they got everything going for them, and it's been impressive, to watch from the outside.
And for you, Coach Walters, so much has gone on in just the last 24 hours. Have you had opportunity to process it all with as much as that's been going on?
And not yet. Yesterday was a whirlwind. Winning a conference championship was one of the greatest feelings in the world, celebrating with the team, with the players, all the hard work they put in. It was just an awesome feeling, awesome experience. And then finding out Coach Frost was leaving, was a sad day because we know what he's poured in and what he means to this program. But like I said, our players are resilient. We had a meeting today, came in and watched the selection show, saw who we were going to play, and they're excited about this upcoming opportunity to play the SEC West champions team that's beating two number one ranked teams in the country. Great opportunity for our players, this football program, this university, and we're looking forward to the challenge.
Also, someone asked Troy Walters if he is a head coach candidate for UCF on that conference call, and this is his response.
I hope so. I love it here. My family loves it here. I know I have total trust in Danny White and the administration that they'll select the right guy for this program, and so we'll see what happens.
We got a good one there. As we've mentioned recently, Coach is a finalist for the Broyles Award that is named for the top assistant coach. And as if though he didn't have enough to do, that ceremony is Tuesday, December 5th in Little Rock, Arkansas. So he'll soon be making his way there for that ceremony. We wish him the best, but he's had a lot to process these last few days, as we all have.
I hope that he gets that award or whatever, but maybe I hope that he tells them somehow that he can't be there for that because he's pretty much one of only a couple that we have left. So.
Interestingly enough, one of the other finalists for that, Auburn's Kevin Steele.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so after the teleconference, then there was a press conference at UCF that had Troy Walters talking about UCF going to the Peach Bowl and all that stuff. And here's some comments. This is the first one that I want to play. This is Troy Walters on the last 24 hours, basically, and this is from that press conference.
A lot of different emotions. Excitement for finishing off this season the right way, being conference champions, the hard work, the dedication, the sacrifice the guys put in. Now is coming to fruition is awesome. No better feeling than what we experienced on the field with the confetti and the fans and holding up that trophy is awesome. And then finding out that Coach Frost was leaving, it was sad because he means a lot to me. He means a lot to this university, this football program, and what he's done these last 2 years has been awesome. And I think the players understand that, and they're really appreciative of what he's done. And now we got to move forward and get ready to play Auburn in the Peach Bowl.
All right, and then in that press conference, somebody as well asked him if he was on the list to maybe interview for the head coaching position. Like, I think they asked him if it was an audition for the head coaching position, and this is what he had to say about that.
I love Florida. I love Central Florida. I love Orlando. I love UCF. I love the future. I love the players. So I'd love to be here. But I'm focusing on one day at a time. Right now, my role is interim head coach. So I want to be the best head coach right now that I can be. And we'll see what happens in the future.
All right, one more clip here from him, and this is one thing that we're all concerned with, I think, is the recruiting issues, and he's going to have to deal with that because it's pretty much him and Becton that are left, so he's the one that's in charge of it now.
I reached out to all the committed guys and just kind of let them know what's going on and just, told them about they made a decision because of UCF and because of the campus, because of the people, because of the players. Because of the future, where this program is headed. So I told them just to, they just got to hold on and be patient and see what kind of happens in the next few days and then go from there. But I've touched base with all of them and kind of filled them in on what's going on. And we got a great recruiting class so far, and it'd be great to keep them all together and get them all here.
All right, so more of this dialogue with Nick Patty coming up, but we simply don't have enough time in this show. But we have to tell you, men's basketball snapped its 3-game losing streak with an upset on the road. The Knights knocked off number 24 Alabama 65-62 to move to 5-3. First ever road victory for UCF over a ranked opponent ever, which I found a little bit hard to believe.
That was great to see them do that after the last couple of games. That it definitely has to give them some confidence and has to let them know that they can do it.
That's right. Ask Knightline. Nick Patty just ahead. Knightline, keep us dialed in as you hit the weights at the gym.
Do you want to sell more falafel? Former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel sure does. That's why he advertises the Little Greek Fresh Grill on Knightline. Talk to Night Nation about your restaurant, brewery, or whatever business through Knightline, the source for UCF sports talk, with newsmaking guests and the best coverage of UCF athletics you'll find anywhere, even in Greece. You can take it to the bank. Contact us right now. Don't wait. Via Twitter at UCF_Knightline, via email at andrew@UCFKnightlinePodcast.com, or call us now at 407-205-7427. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Nick, the Wild Knight Patty.
Well, let's continue this celebration/therapy session with Nick Patty, who is in the Red Zone. Nick, we've heard that this year, this 12-0 year, came a year early. I guess for you wish it had come a year earlier than that, right?
Yeah. No, it's man, I don't know that it could have came early enough as far as where our program was a few years ago. But, obviously being a year removed, you always wish it would come a little bit sooner. But I was just telling somebody it was the year I before I got to UCF, they went to the Fiesta Bowl, the New Year's Six game, and then excuse me, and then this year, the year after I left, they went. So a little bit different for me as far as not getting able to play in those games. But no, I'm excited for these guys, man. This team, I'm thrilled for them. I know they're really, really excited. So it'll be good to see.
All right. Well, I know that there is a lot of different feelings between different people on this whole deal, and we're kind of using this, like Trey said at the beginning, a little bit of a therapy session. What are your thoughts on this whole deal? Of course, we just won a conference championship, but then again, our coach just left us to go to the Big Red N, and we don't. Honestly, we don't know how to feel about a lot of this stuff. Sure. How do you feel about it? Being a guy that was coached by Coach Frost and now looking back on this whole deal.
From an outsider's perspective, it's not in the building every day, for all of us. It's kind of hard to pick how you feel about it, especially, too, Saturday with watching the game and, everything that's going on and all the excitement. You have a overtime situation, a conference championship, and then, news gets released in the middle of the game. I have some choice thoughts on how that was handled. I'm not sure who had the power to release that information. That obviously, was kind of a done deal before the game, and obviously I'm sure there was, an arrangement in place for that announcement to be made. And to it to be made at that point, I think is just absolutely ridiculous. I think whoever's decision it was to take away from what the team was doing at that point, and obviously the situation. In my opinion, I don't hold that against Coach Frost or anybody because he was on the field. It's not like I don't think he sent a text and said, hey, let's release this. But I think to take that away from the team, and that shame on whoever's decision that was to pick that time and place, because obviously even had it been made before the game, I understand that a little bit. But, I just think it was poor timing. To lose coach, you get it. He's going to his alma mater. Danny White touched on that well in depth. And that's for any of us to have an opportunity like that to go to your alma mater where he was so successful and cares so much about, I think is a special opportunity for him. And you have to feel for that in the slightest bit, even having played for him, and kind of been around that business of it. Even as a player, you understand coaches are put in those difficult situations, and I think you can tell from his emotions Saturday that it was a tough decision for him. And, I think any of us on the UCF side knew that he was torn, and I think it was going to come down even, there's a lot of reports now that it may have been done for a while, and there were some talks, but pre-Temple game or whatever it may be. But, I think you can tell and look in his eye it was a tough spot because this was a special season. I don't hold it against Coach Frost for leaving because, he's going to a place that he really cares deeply about and that cares deeply about him, and that's a special opportunity. But, there's certain ways to handle these situations, and, I do question a little bit as to how some of that stuff happened. But at the end of the day, really, first and foremost, everyone I think should thank Coach Frost for what he did for this place and the effort that he did put in. Moving forward with how that's going to work in the bowl, I don't know, but there was a special little run here, and I think you could tell that we did get a lot of effort from him while he was here. And moving forward, it's just kind of a forward-thinking process, I think, for UCF. So.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. What do you think about this talk of Frost coaching in this bowl game?
I'm mixed on that. I think, Danny White kind of talked on it. I don't think there's any realm of possibility that you can hire a coach and then expect him to put a staff together and coach in this bowl game. I don't even think that should be in the discussion. But there is a staff at UCF right now that I think should. I don't personally believe that Coach Frost should be involved. I think that it's time he's made a decision to move forward. I think one thing people, I think, need to have a better understanding, and you guys have been in a room on a roster, is there's 85 guys at UCF that he committed to and needed to coach. Well, he's now taken a commitment to 85 more guys at Nebraska, and his commitment and responsibility is now with those guys, and they deserve him to be there. UCF's guys deserve someone's full attention, whether that be the staff that's there or the next guy. But I don't think that in the bowl, as much as I'd love to have Coach Frost's full attention, that's just not a possibility. I think we all know that that's not very realistic with having taken a job of that caliber at Nebraska and the commitment they're going to want from him. I think that would be nothing but a distraction. I don't think the team, from what I hear, has a whole lot of ill feelings for him. I think they're all pretty happy for him. They've all enjoyed their time. They're all very thankful they got to play for him and experience him. The guys that I've talked to, there's not a whole lot of malice towards him. So I don't know that having him around would be like a negative, but I do think it will be a distraction. And so I think, me personally, in a perfect world, just like you see every other place that loses a coach, the entire staff is, for the majority, sticks around until after the bowl and coaches the bowl. You have Troy Walters be the interim head coach, and you have things stay pretty intact of how they are. You get through the bowl game, and then, that staff, whether they stay or go, disintegrates, whatever it may be. But I don't think personally that having Coach Frost there, as much as, I like and appreciate Coach Frost for what he did, and he, there's no question here that he got us to this bowl and he got us to this pinnacle. But he made his decision to move on, and I think he should get that process moving.
I had a couple players tell me after the game last night that they would not play in the bowl game if Coach Frost was not coaching it. What do you think about that?
I think that just goes to show how much these guys appreciate him. I think you get the sense that these guys really appreciate what he did, especially players that were there before him, that he didn't recruit. And you get I could tell you, me personally, how much I appreciate what he did for the program, how fast how fast he took to being a UCF guy. It's one thing to just come in and want to win as a coach, but it's one thing for you to experience a coach that comes in and really embraces the culture of your team. And, he really, that faster than I had ever seen with a new coach come in. It takes a little bit for a guy to embrace the culture and really care about a place enough to win. And Coach Frost had a really innate ability to portray the fact that he was a UCF guy, and guys that were there before in the old regime, and we struggled a little bit, and towards the end of that, it got tough to be UCF players, and Coach Frost came in and revitalized that. He came in and he earned trust. He came in and he worked hard, and he created a staff and a culture of that family you hear him talking about. And I know it's hard for people to now see, and you talk about if we're a family, how are you leaving? Well, people get placed in tough decisions, to move on, and this is not. I don't think this is like Coach Frost leaving us, for the Texas job or the Ohio State job or whatever it may be, the Florida job. This is him leaving in a really difficult circumstance, and so that love and that family, I think, stays intact, and that from what I've heard of those players that want him to coach or want him to be around. There's no surprise there for me. I just, in my answer to your previous question, I just think as far as the process goes for him and the distraction and all that may be, that may be the best way to do it. But I got to tell you, I like our chances more if he's around. I like him not only in the film room, but it's kind of a win-win for the Gipper, if you will. Just as far as the normal process without having the distraction, I think he should move on. But at the same time, I know what he means to that program. I know what he means to the Wyatt Millers of the world and Shaquem Griffins of the world, etc. So,
went into Saturday's game with a tremendous deal of respect for a Shaquem Griffin and a Rory Coleman, and then to hear over the course of days that Monday, Tuesday practices weren't as hot as they needed to be, and that Shaquem and Rory called a players-only meeting and said, guys, we're so close to achieving what we need to achieve for this season, that 12-0, winning the American. Talk about how important this group of players has been getting through just an unusual season. I mean, we're dealing with this fog of this, the frost situation, but we're only a couple of months removed from hurricanes and delays, and they've played all these games without the bye week. And then for those two guys, and I'm sure others and the seniors, to come together and say, let us stay focused if perhaps these adults, these coaches may not be. Talk about the importance of that.
It's irreplaceable. It's irreplaceable. And I think, the best way to put it is you see two guys there that, probably weren't the only ones, but definitely don't surprise me if they were the ones to lead the charge. Talk about two guys there that are about as close to, coaches and grown-ups as you can get. You look at Rory and his story with being, overseas and being in armed forces and the things he went through medically and mentally, physically, whatever it may be. What he brings to the table as far as a leadership role is unmatchable. And then you look at Shaquem. His story is well documented. What he went through as a young man and how he's rebounded. Him and his brother both, Shaquem and Shaquille, are just extraordinary people, extraordinary leaders, extraordinary personalities. Very happy, very positive. But to have those two guys in general step up, I don't know that you have two more guys on the team or on any team in the country that can play a role that those two can in that situation. Unprecedented for them this year, and you hear guys talk about it too. I'm sure you guys have seen the quotes, best year of my life. Coach Frost said it. Coach Walter said it in his press conference, best season of my life. And this has been an incredible ride for these guys. Us as fans, wow, what a freaking roller coaster. What a great one. It's one you want to ride again, right? But for these players, man, to live it every day. They wake up, they work out, they go in meetings, they practice, whatever it may be. And to be, the engine behind this train, I can't imagine what it's been like, with the hurricanes, the delays, all these practices, weeks in a row. And talking to these guys, man, they're burnt out. I know that of practice, and they're tired and they're hurt. But there's been a drive because there's that excitement, and there's those guys like Rory and Shaquem that are stepping up and driving this train, man. And I tell you, it's irreplaceable. I don't know that you can find that again, but I also don't know that you could manufacture that. If you didn't have guys doing it on their own, you can't manufacture it. And trust me, I can tell you from experience, I'm being on an unsuccessful team. that one of those guys was on in Shaquem. He was in a little different role and had a little bit less of a, an impact on the field and was a little younger. But you can't manufacture that, because I've seen that story when you're not as successful and you don't have that leadership. It's not just, coming out of the woodwork. And to see this team have it and see their success, there's no surprise there.
The face of this program for the last 2 years has been Scott Frost. The face of this program for the next month we're not quite clear on, but we do know, at least in the short term, that the interim head coach is Troy Walters. We don't know as much about him. Tell us about him. What kind of coach is he? What kind of guy is he? What kind of leader is he?
I'll tell you, from a coaching standpoint, he's about as intellectual as they get. We all know he's a really good player. We all know he's well documented. He's a Blitnikoff winner. He played in the NFL for about 8 years, I believe. But he's about as intelligent, as intellectual, as detailed of a coach as you can get. He's very much into the X's and O's of football. He's very much more of a more straight-lined coach, if you will. He's going to coach you more on technique and details, as opposed to the big picture of just ball. As a man, he's about as he's not a huge rah-rah, in-your-face motivator, but he is a motivator. He communicates in a really, docile might not be the word. He communicates in a more of a low-key way, but he's very, he gets loud and he gets in your face when he needs it. He knows when people need to drive. He's not a negative motivator. He motivates by positivity, and he only gets excited when he knows that it can be used for good. I like Troy as the guy to lead this team in the interim. I'm not sure that he's a long-term option, and not to say that he's not suitable or fits the job, but I don't know that he's who they're looking at, honestly. But I do like Coach Walters. He's an awesome motivator. He knows the situation that these guys are in as a team. I think he's the best fit for the interim as far as our team to be successful and take care of these kids, because he cares for them. He's a passionate guy. He has, that's the big thing about Coach Walters that I am playing for him for a year notice, is that he has such a passion for the game, and he has such a passion for the overall game of football that it has no choice but to trickle down into the players and to the team. And I appreciated that about him, and you could tell he just cared about it so much that he cared about the guys. And, he's an awesome guy. He's a very positive motivator, and I'm excited to see what he can do in this short month. And I don't think there's anyone more prepared. Danny White talked about in his press conference, proactive and prepared. Well, I think these coaches see the writing on the wall, too, throughout the year, that they may lose a guy. And a guy like Troy Walters can't tell me that he wasn't a little proactive and a little prepared to say, hey, I may be thrust into a role here at the end of the season, and I need to be ready for it. And I guarantee you, Coach Walters is the kind of guy that's ready and prepared for something like this. And, we'll see what happens. This is an unprecedented situation none of us wanted to be in. We've got a team, arguably, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country, that should probably be playing for one of those top 4 spots that we're going to see in Atlanta. So this is an unprecedented situation for whoever's leading the squad. But, if as far as what we had to choose from, Coach Walters would absolutely far and above be my choice.
We've seen an incredible amount of offense over the last 2 games. Yeah. We've also seen the other teams put up a lot of points and a lot of offense.
Sure.
Month off before that bowl game, do you think that defense just needs a rest, or maybe there's some cracks starting to show? What's your thoughts on the team, and especially the defense, after this 12-0 run so far?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Active discussion about that last night after the game is I think the big overwhelming picture of this defense is it's tired out. They're worn down. You're 11 or so games in a row. They're worn down. They're tired. They're seeing a few offenses in a row, too, that aren't real slow, if you will, that throw it around, especially yesterday. I just think they're worn down. Up front, they haven't been able to have as much depth as they've wanted to, and those guys are tired and worn down. And, I think we got some help from our edge rushers and edge blitzers yesterday that really helped, kind of fill some of those cracks that we saw in our stamina, if you will, up front. But on the back end, too, I think if you're looking at it's not only has something to do with fatigue, but not only fatigue is our defensive secondary is just little more suspect than we've seen. Obviously last year, where they were kind of a standout group, but throughout this year they had been much better than they've been in the last 3 weeks. Like I said, there's no doubt they're tired, but if there's one thing I think that we've seen some cracks on, it's not only our coverage skills, and we talked about last week, seeing the ball, playing the ball a little bit better, but I think too, when you look at last week and this week, this past week, we had some big-time busts in coverage, big-time busts in play action where safeties are getting sucked up and we're getting thrown over their heads. We've gotten crushed in the seam game, so our linebackers haven't been carrying guys very well because of play action. And so those are some cracks in the defense structurally and game plan-wise. We've been pretty gap-sound up front. We've gotten gashed a little bit because we're tired and we're getting cut off up front. But I've seen a lot in the defensive secondary of guys getting sucked up on play action, not sticking to their keys and reads, and that's been an issue that we're going to need to get corrected against Auburn, because all of Auburn's offense is misdirection and play action, smoke and mirrors, a lot of shifts, a lot of motions, and their whole pass game is based on play action, and they've got arguably the best trigger man in the country coming in. And so
I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I can't handle Auburn talk now after all that's gone on. You can't hit me. Can't hit me with Auburn Tiger talk yet.
I know. I'll reel it back. I can't help myself.
I know, but we've just gone through so much. You go back to the Cows game on Black Friday, just the most incredible atmosphere ever.
Yeah.
They come back 8 days later and put on fireworks.
Yep.
We had a night game with the cell phones, but we had a day game with fireworks galore, really. And
which is awesome too. I mean, and what a tribute to the fans. What a tribute to the school and the community. 2 weeks in a row, man, packing that place out. And we talked about it after the USF game. But Saturday, man, incredible. And what an incredible atmosphere. And you could see what this place can be and what we have to offer. And it was just awesome to see, especially with Sienna writing on all across, and just for the next guy, you hope they're looking, you hope they're watching, and I know you guys know what we have to offer. But that was cool, man. Shout out to the fans too, and shout out to the people, the community, for just packing that place around the team. I know in talking to those guys, man, they'll never forget it because of the fans.
You're not going to say that
cell phones and all that crap.
You're not going to say this place is special, are you? You're not going to.
What's that?
You're not going to say this place is special, are you? We've heard that a lot over the last week or two.
I'm going to try to refrain from using that word, but I think we all know it is. But I know I saw that tweet from you guys too, and I couldn't agree more, man.
Well, Nick, thank you very much, and we're going to talk to you about this Auburn game. We're going to talk to you about this because we're gonna let us all take a little bit of a deep breath from all this, and just. But we will definitely talk to you about that game. That you are a guy to preview that, and we will be doing that in the next few weeks. We got a little bit of time to do that. So thank you very much for joining us and talking straight talk with us, though, and doing this whole year. We've really appreciated it. You've been a great addition to our team here at Knightline. Thank you very much for doing it this year and all that.
Absolutely. No doubt. I've enjoyed it, and we've had been a roller coaster, but I've really enjoyed it. We got one more big one. Can't wait to talk about it a little bit, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
More football talk, this time with Kyle Israel. Go nowhere.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also check out The Little Greek's newest location at 3131 Daniels Road, Suite 104, Winter Garden, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Time again for Ask Knightline, answering questions that come in on Facebook and Twitter. Here's one from Andrew on Facebook. Who do you think would be a good replacement for Frost? Troy Walters or somebody outside like Kevin Sumlin? Which we talked a little bit about. I don't really have a lean on this.
Well, I think for recruiting purposes, honestly, I'd like to see somebody like Kevin Sumlin. I'd like to see a big name. I think that honestly, if Kevin Sumlin came in and maybe kept Troy Walters as the offensive coordinator, I don't know if we would miss a beat. Kevin Sumlin had Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. And Mackenzie Milton, we've mentioned many times, is almost a mirror image of the dude, except for the off-the-field problems, because Mackenzie has none of those. So I think that a guy like Kevin Sumlin knows how to use a guy like Mackenzie Milton, and I think that would be the good thing. Troy Walters also does, I guess, but I think you need a big name to get the recruits in here to keep going with what we've got going.
And just brace yourself, though, that Frost was not a big name, and Danny White might not go with a big name.
True.
That's all.
It's true. We don't know.
He mentioned that it could be days, it could be weeks. I don't think it's going to be weeks. At UCF Night Text TX on Twitter. Here you go. I got a big name for you. This is the question, not my question. This question. Should UCF contact George O'Leary and Charlie Taft to help with bowl game prep, given Frost staff is now focused on Nebraska?
Absolutely not.
I've replied on
Absolutely
Twitter, by the way. I go, this is not going to happen.
No.
But I wanted to include it.
I mean, that would be nice, I guess, if they would be willing to help out, but they don't know this team, really, with what it's become since, it's not the same thing at all. So,
at Joshua Kenna on Twitter, who I exchanged quite a few messages with today. Who stays behind? Well, we know at the moment, not many.
I think they're here.
Sean Beckton, Coach Beckton.
Coach Beckton and Troy Walters, they're here.
And Coach Beckton
Those
is
are
a
the
UCF
ones.
guy, and he was part of the transition from the O'Leary era to the Frost stint, and I feel good with him on board.
And those are the only two that didn't jump on the plane with Scott Frost.
That's correct. Edward on Facebook, many said that the Cows game the week prior was the best in UCF history. Does this AAC championship game top it? What a great question. That may be a poll question on Twitter this week.
Well, and it should be, and I think that we should maybe leave the answer for that poll. No, I'll tell you right now. I think, yes, it probably did. This Memphis game, personally, for me, topped that. It did. Because this was winning a championship. That was beating the Cows, though, I guess. So
you don't get to this championship
without beating the Cows. So
the atmosphere was better. It's almost as if, though, night is like a dome over the stadium, right? You see the dark, in a way in which, with a blue sky and a beautiful day, you feel like you can see forever. It feels like a dome brings in all that sound.
And
that
there
atmosphere
was so much
unbelievable.
surrounding this game, though. There was so much surrounding this game that it felt bigger. It was winning the conference championship. It wasn't just winning the rivalry.
I felt
personally.
a little more joyful in the lead up
That's
to the
true,
Cows
too.
game.
That's true.
And once this Frost news started to come out on social media a week ago, in which we kind of argued about it before going into how we were going to cover it.
Yep.
It took a little of the joy out of it, but I felt joy going into that Cow week.
I think both of them, it's a very, very close thing. So let's let the Twitter followers settle that. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, it's at UCF_Knightline.
And by the way, I had a poll on there. Now you've shown me how to do this, by the way, in the polls.
It's awesome. You're doing a great job.
And I put a poll on there. We talked a little bit about it on Post Game Live. Who's more important to the future of UCF athletics, Danny White or Scott Frost? And several people blasted me for posting that. 60-40, by the way, Danny White, who has re-upped and has not resigned. He has stayed. And every person that blasted me also voted.
Well, we're not totally in this to make friends, people. We're in this to tell you the stories and to, let everybody know what's happening. We're a vehicle so we can't please everybody all the time.
And we're very different fans.
Absolutely.
And we have different perspectives.
Absolutely.
So some people identify with each of us, I guess.
Right. So if you're mad at us, it's fine. Be mad at us, but listen to our show, and you know that we're going to do the best that we can to bring you all this stuff. So
at UCF,
don't let a Twitter poll piss you off that much.
At UCF_Diver39 on Twitter, friend of the Knightline.
Absolutely.
Where do we go from here? Can I just say we're going to be fine? We are fine. So great heights. This has been the greatest stretch of UCF athletics. Let's not forget, deep NIT run for basketball, baseball winning, all of these sports winning, all of these great coaching hires. And you know what? Even in the midst of all of this, Danny White has been putting out on Twitter, Here's another donor who stepped forward. Here's another one for the Excellence Fund. And, our friends in Nebraska are helping pay for that lazy river now. So we're getting some money from them, and this Peach Bowl means some money for the league and for UCF, and it's all good.
These are exciting times. Even though it may suck at times, these are exciting times for UCF, and these could be some of the most, influential and defining times as well for UCF. And I think that we're going to make it perfectly fine out of this whole deal. And I think Danny White, like we've said a couple times, trust in Danny White. Danny White will get us through this, and that will make Danny White even more of a legend around here.
Well said. So thank you for your questions. Couldn't get to all of them. But we post that out on Facebook and Twitter Sunday mornings, collect them, and then talk about them on Sunday nights.
One of my favorite segments, of course. We're going to get some music for this segment one of these days.
More talk now with quarterback Kyle Israel.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
Let's continue the conversation about UCF's insane weekend with former Knights quarterback Kyle Israel. Kyle, before we start, were you in a fraternity?
Yes, I was in a fraternity.
All right, see? Greek, little Greek. That's where I was going with all of that, okay? All right, so was this the craziest weekend ever in terms of UCF sports news? I can't think of anything else quite like this.
No, I think this one is definitely right up there when you consider, obviously, the game yesterday, what was on the line, that being on ABC, a noon game for a championship at home. Coach Frost obviously making the decision to take the Nebraska job, and then, Danny White coming in after that and having a press conference and saying that he's already been preparing for this for weeks now, basically, and then for our basketball team to go on the road today and beat a very good Alabama basketball team. It's quite a bit here in the last 48 hours.
Oh, by the way, we're in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Day, too. See, there's so many things you can't even remember all of them. Let's talk about this game. Double overtime, certainly exciting. The American has lucked out with back-to-back UCF games, high scoring, exciting, a lot of offense. What did you see from an offensive standpoint? You got to love how many yards and points UCF put up.
Well, I remember looking up at the scoreboard at halftime or right there in the third quarter and seeing 435 passing yards by us, and Memphis was kind of right there as well. I think it's the highest scoring game I've ever seen in person, for sure, that I can really remember. It's 62-55, and I think we knew that both teams were going to have great offenses. I think everybody anticipated coming into the game that would be the case. And it was more or less who was going to get the one or two big stops to kind of shift the momentum the other direction. We obviously had some turnovers, 3 interceptions, which are hard to even look at because McKenzie played so phenomenal throughout the course of that game. But we had some turnovers, and we were able to create some turnovers. And it was a scary, scary, scary game. I was extremely, extremely nervous there towards the end, especially when they converted that third down after we had after there was a delay of game penalty, and then we missed a tackle in the backfield. They get a first down. I'm thinking they're going to go down and kick the ball, kick a field goal to win, and it was just all going to explode right there. But it was just a phenomenal win and exciting offensive matchup.
All right, so Kyle, talk a little bit more about Mackenzie Milton. You mentioned him. Talk about what a phenomenal job he's done all year.
Well, I think he's just had a special season. I think there were definitely question marks about him on this team this summer and going into fall camp. People at one point in time didn't even know, if he was going to be a part of this 2017 team. And so to think of that adversity that he was kind of facing and really adapting to living here in Orlando so far away from home, and then to have his mother move here to kind of help support him, then he just goes in and just,
just puts the pieces together each and every week. Yeah, he's had a little bit of up and down here and there, but gosh, we were analyzing McKenzie last season in 2016, and you'd see one game where you saw this like, man, he could be something special, and then you'd have a head scratcher game where he turned the ball over and wasn't able to deliver the football down the field, and you're kind of saying, man, I don't know if he's exactly the guy, but boy, did he ever prove us wrong if we were ever doubting him, because he was able to, just do things that are so difficult, but he makes them look so easy. The way he ran the option for us here in the last 2 games, finding one-on-one matchups down the field. I mean, yes, Coach Frost and the system and the scheme, that has a lot to do with it. But McKenzie had mastered it, understood it, and really led by example. And I think that, he's, as a sophomore, there's so many more exciting things that he can do for us, and I'm just excited about him being a part of this team and this program for the next 2 years, because I think if he continues like this, he's going to have arguably the best career of any UCF football player ever.
We all saw it during the Black Friday game, and head coach Scott Frost said at the time a lot of busted coverages. It was correctable, something they were going to work on. And before I get your reaction to the defense, follow you on Twitter, and you'd said, I heard rumors all week that Shenander wasn't preparing us for this game. Pretty freaking obvious, huh? Tell us more about what you think you saw, what we saw, in terms of preparation on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, I had heard some things inside from some of the other coaches that had matriculated their way out to some other former players, and basically just that some of the coaching staff, including Shenander, really had kind of really just been booked it in a little bit this week. And you look in the first half, I mean, we have defensive backs that just don't know where to go. We have guys that are catching the ball wide open. Yeah, some of those things were contested. Anthony Miller goes up and makes a big-time catch over Mike Hughes. I mean, what are you going to do about that? That's two of the better players on the field. But when you just see guys running wide open down the field, or us not tackling well, I don't know if it's because our defense was just so tired from last week, but the defense just looked out of sorts. Shaquem Griffin was really the bright spot, and we, don't get me wrong, we made some big plays when we needed to. But at the same time, they were able to gash us, and sometimes it just didn't look like we had an answer schematically to what Memphis was doing to us. So I think some of that goes back on coaching and the focus, and as more things come out, maybe this is not something that was as last minute as people had thought it was in regards to Coach Frost going to Nebraska, and then obviously Coach Shenander was a guy that was probably going to be going with Coach Frost this entire time, and as you learn more about their relationship and their friendship. And so that's what I had heard at halftime. Some people were frustrated, and I just kind of saw the same thing. We just were not schematically at times in good position, and looked like we had been outcoached a little bit.
I'm going to get into this. We talked a lot about this on Post Game Live last night, and you were there to talk to us about it. I appreciate that, by the way. I guess Danny White says Coach Frost is going to coach this bowl game in some form or another. How would you feel if it was you were a player? How would you feel if Coach Frost was going to coach this team in this bowl game?
I think I'd feel okay. I think that these players, I think that they've responded very well to this. I really do. I think that it's naturally tough, but you got to remember, if these players want to win this football game, and if they think that their best chance to win is with Coach Frost and the staff, or somewhat most of the main guys of the staff, if they think that's the only way that they can go out there and win, then I think that the players are going to want to do whatever it takes to win. I mean, you're going to be on national television again. You're going to be in a big-time bowl game against a very good Auburn team. I don't think that players think they can do it by themselves, and I think they obviously know how difficult beating a team like Auburn will be, and I think that the players will be for it. Some of them may not. It's hard to get all 120 people on 20 players on one page, but I think the majority of guys, and I think the senior class will help, over the next couple of weeks, and just keeping guys motivated, because this is still a big time game, and I think guys, this situation is not like any of the other coaching job openings across the country. I think it's very obvious that Coach Frost was torn. I think it's very clear that this was a tough decision for him. Don't really mind how it went about unfolding, but I think it was ultimately very tough. And I think the players understand that. And when you look at the way, them picking him up, all those players in that locker room yesterday, guys, knew at the end of that game that Coach Frost was going to Nebraska, and they picked him up and put Coach Frost on their shoulders in the locker room and kind of let him crowd surf across the top of that team. That doesn't look like a bunch of guys that are, pissed off that their coach is going to a different school. It looks like a bunch of guys that are really appreciative for what he did for them. And so I think they'll be fine with him coaching in the bowl game, and frankly, so am I.
Now, as we record, the logistics of how this might happen are still in conversation, but I'm trying to get my arms around what does that mean? How do, especially if Frost is going to take the majority of this coaching staff with him to Nebraska, they sure as heck were almost all on the plane to Lincoln on Saturday night. How do you do both?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think that, I point to Danny White to kind of guide us on this and help figure out how you do it exactly. There's so many things that people have to think about. I mean, for example, on December 14th, I'm supposed to be catering dinner for the football team. I don't even know who I'm supposed to talk to right now. I don't know if I call, is there an interim director of football operations? Do I reach out to the football office? Do I still need to provide food? So many things that go into this entire landscape of what we're trying to do here in the next month. Guys are out of class. School's going to be over. We got to keep them on campus. There's just a ton of stuff. So I don't know how they make it happen exactly. Maybe, we've just gone 11 weeks in a row, or 11 weeks in a row playing ball games. So I don't think that we're going to need a ton of, you're not going to get the type of practices where teams are trying to evaluate younger guys because a new staff's coming in. But I think you have a couple practices where you try to install a game plan. I think Coach Frost really has to lean on his assistants quite a bit. And I think Troy Walters offensively becomes very key in getting this game plan together. But you guys may know more than I do at this moment. Is Troy Walters as the interim, is the assumption that he is not going to be on the coaching staff in Nebraska?
It certainly seems that way.
From what I understand, in fact, he was asked today during the bowl game, the Peach Bowl game press conference on the phone, teleconference that we were on at 5 o'clock. He was even asked if he was a candidate for the head coach position, and he said that he certainly hopes so. And that he knows that Danny White will pick the right guy. This whole thing, I've been trying to follow it all day. There's a lot to follow here. It goes in many different directions, as you well know. I kind of figured myself I was going to let 24 hours go by and see where the dust had settled a little bit. But I would want Coach Frost, put it this way, as a fan that's going to go buy a ticket and go and support that team, I would want to see the best that we have to offer on that stage. So if it's Coach Frost there, I'm not mad at him. I'm not upset at him. I think that this all happened much faster than anybody would want it to happen. But when you look at some of the pictures from Nebraska today and you realize how important Scott Frost is to that state, is to that program. I mean, I don't think that anybody here can truly understand what he means to those folks, those people there. And those people haven't been the kindest of people or most gracious of people through this process. But my girlfriend said it best today. We were talking about it, and she goes, Kyle, those people in Nebraska need Scott Frost more than we need him here at UCF. We're in a much better position than they are right now. And if we get Coach Frost back for a bowl game that's going to help us go out there and put on a great show, then I can personally be okay with that. I hope it's managed well, and I think that's a very difficult thing to do.
Well, and to that very point, how well has it been managed? It leaked out during the game. It, to me, seems, without insider knowledge, that it's certainly something Frost could have asked Nebraska to hold off and then had a press conference on Monday. I mean, as it stands, he celebrated with the team, resigned. The press release comes out naming Walters as the interim coach. He's on a plane to Nebraska and an unveiling on Sunday. Did all of that have to happen within 24 hours? especially something that may have been known for weeks?
Maybe not, but when all things are considered, I feel like there was maybe a little bit of a negotiation process. Coach Frost probably went to Nebraska and said, "Hey, I want to coach this team in the bowl game." And Nebraska said, "Are you kidding me?" And maybe Coach Frost said that that's the only way that's going to happen is if he finishes off that bowl game as a coach for UCF. And I believe that is actually what did happen. And maybe Nebraska said, "Well, fine, go ahead, we'll let you do that. But guess what? We want you in Lincoln on Sunday for a press conference right away." I mean, I think those type of conversations happen. I know some people around the program that are now in Nebraska that kind of have alluded to those type of conversations happening. And yes, Trace, it was certainly classless for whoever allowed that second overtime ESPN announcement to take place that he was going to Nebraska. Somebody really messed up there because I don't think any parties involved thought that the game would still be going on at that point. And the double overtime kind of created a situation where somebody wasn't paying attention, and that was sent out. That notification was sent out, and you can't take it back. But I think that Nebraska wanted to do it today, and I think that Coach Frost got what he wanted from Nebraska, and that was I want to coach in the bowl game.
Yeah, I hope that that's the case. There's so many different levels of craziness involved in this thing. I mean, there's been names said, and when we talked about names yesterday on the post-game show, now there's, I guess, issues with Kevin Sumlin. I was just reading here, Sumlin deadline was today. The ship may have sailed. I'm hearing Jason Candle now from Toledo and possibly the Ohio State offensive coordinator Ryan Day. I mean, there's just all kinds of things here. Danny White says that he wants to get somebody that is going to keep this train rolling, basically, and I think that that's the most important thing. Maybe Walters is it. I don't know.
The question with Walters is I don't know how Walters and I'm just saying this is just a broad question. It seems interesting. I'm not sure he can turn around and find a staff. It's going to be very difficult for Troy Walters, and I like Coach Walters, and I'm not sure I'd have a problem with him being our head coach. But to assemble a staff that understands Coach Frost's offense and Chip Kelly's offense is not an easy thing to do. So I think that would be tough for Coach Walters to find a group of guys, maybe a Kevin Smith coming back as running back coach, who before he went to FAU did help coach this offense last year. But Danny White said in the press conference yesterday, it may take days, it may take weeks. And there are people maybe setting some deadlines for when they think a coach should be hired. But when the athletic director, who says he's already been preparing for this for weeks, is now telling us that it may take days to weeks, I think we need to take him on his word. And if it's a week down the road from now, we can't say that he didn't tell us so.
Well, but what's not going to change is December 20th begins the early signing period. So what is the impact of all of this? You have Coach Walters with, Coach Becton and a skeleton staff that has to begin to prepare for a bowl game, and then what of recruiting?
We're going to lose a lot of recruits, guys. There's going to be a lot of players that were committed to us that were, committed to Coach Frost and that are going to go to Nebraska. I think that's going to happen. I think, this recruiting cycle, it is still important to get a coach in. I agree with you right away so that we can salvage what we can, but if you think UCF left their recruiting boards in the offices, if you think UCF staff left their recruiting-based knowledge in the computer systems, I guarantee you that any coach that's walking in there is going to have to look on Rivals to find out any type of information on any commitments that we have, because a lot of the stuff I can tell you is gone. So there is a turnaround time that is very important, and yes, we are going to lose recruits from this. We just naturally are, and it is very important. I do agree with you, Trace, to get a coach in here so that we can get our feet back on the ground and And hopefully Coach Becton and Coach Walters can get on the phone with some of the key guys in this class and try to convince them that things are going to be okay. But there's going to be a 24, 72, 90, 48 to 96 hour window where there's going to be a lot of question marks, and I'm not sure that all the answers are going to be provided.
So does that mean this has the potential to be a lost recruiting time? I mean, this is the first time we've had this early signing period. Does the timing of this mean, Andrew said it before we began the show, this might be a lost recruiting year. I mean, it seems dramatic, but is there some reality in that?
You're going to lose guys. I don't know if it's going to be a complete loss of the year. Depending on what coach comes in here, you may have some guys. There's not everybody is going to be in the early signing period. But I guess the positive and the silver lining is that we have a very young, talented team. And we're not going to be looking to as many freshmen in next year's class to be key contributors, if you want to look at the silver lining that way. But, I think it's fair to say that our recruiting class is not going to be as strong as it would have if we would have won the conference championship and gone to this Peach Bowl with Coach Frost still on board. I think that it would have been the strongest recruiting class ever had that been the case. But I don't think it'll be a complete loss either, because those wins and being on a national stage basically in our last two games and then versus Auburn, there's still going to be players that want to come and play at UCF. It just may not be the guys that we thought were going to be coming here all along. We're going to see some new names, new faces, and maybe a guy that's maybe a coach that's coming from somewhere else has some guys that he would bring with him from his recruiting class there. So there's a lot of things to be considered.
You sent a text to me earlier today that said it feels like being broken up with. That's the analogy that I have come up with this situation as well. I've tried to think of how I feel about this. I've tried to get my thoughts together, and that is the closest thing that I can relate this to. It's the feeling of uncertainty and the feeling of maybe watching that girl walk off with the guy that she chose instead of you. Seeing Coach Frost up there in Nebraska watching that press conference, that's what it feels like. And you use that analogy too. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of like when somebody breaks up with you and then they're like, "Don't worry, it wasn't you, it was me." And it's like, well, what does that mean? Look, I'm right here. I'm waiting for you. But you're telling me that there's just no chance no matter what I would have done. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. You wake up today and it's like so exciting going to bed, and then you look at Coach Frost in a Nebraska press conference, and it's just like, man, like that happened so fast. So fast.
Yeah.
You see him yesterday in tears on our sideline. You see him yesterday talking to Todd McShay, kind of in tears, getting emotional, and with the players. I'm not mad at him at all. It's just one of those things that it just doesn't seem like it could be possible after coming off such a high and being in such a great place. It doesn't feel like he would actually take it. And I was in denial for a long time that he wouldn't go to Nebraska. But when you think of everybody that's calling him, when you think of former teammates, former players, former teachers, former administrators, I mean, I can't imagine if I was coming, if UCF wanted me as bad as Nebraska wanted Coach Frost and I was in the coaching business, it would be so hard to have my family and everybody else that was such a crucial part of my life between the years of 18 or for him 20 to 22 years old in a place that is, die hard about their football program, where you grow up and you look at that big red N and you just want to do everything you can to be a part of that someday. If you're a young athlete, male or female, growing up in Nebraska, like that is everything, Nebraska football. And when those type of pressures and those type of roots are instilled in you, and people are asking you to come save that program, save what was once the thing that you idolized the most. We need you to come back and please bring this back into relevance. That's a lot of pressure. And when Tom Osborne, a guy that's a legend, is pushing for you to come back, and oh, by the way, they're going to pay you quite a bit more money and you're going to get your staff quite a bit more money. UCF may be a special place to Coach Frost, but it's not in his blood, and it is not something that was this far off dream when he was a young child about maybe walking those sidelines someday as a head football coach, and sometimes that's just too much to turn away from. And I also think that if Coach Frost wants to be an NFL coach, I think you've seen that he's a very competitive guy. He's obviously very talented. And personally, I believe Coach Frost wants to be an NFL head coach someday, and that's just my own opinion. But if you want to do that, I think it's much more difficult to go and take an NFL job from UCF than it may be from Nebraska.
Well, going with your example there, I think of something my mom said, unfortunately, on more than one occasion. It's going to be all right, honey. It's going to be all right after those breakups. And to draw it back to UCF, UCF's going to be all right because UCF is all right.
We are. We are in the best position that we've ever been in. And Coach Frost leaving yesterday, it hurts, but we are in such a good place. It doesn't feel anything like what we felt 2 years ago, going 0-12. Coach O'Leary leaving, that whole staff kind of disbanding. It feels so much better than that. And the last two games at home, I think, have re-energized this fan base. There's people that I see on social media and other places that I haven't seen talking about UCF football for a decade that have come out of the woodworks and are ready to support. And we are going in the right direction. We've made ourselves relevant again in the national landscape. People have talked about UCF more this season than even in a Fiesta Bowl season. I think that we have Coach Frost truly deserves all the credit for getting us on the map, and those players deserve all the credit for getting us on the map again. But I think that we will be just fine. It's just going to be kind of a little interim period of figuring out which direction that's going to be, and us needing to have a little bit of patience and Danny White to make some right decisions and to be able to go from there.
All right, Kyle. Well, we trust in the words of Kyle Israel.
And Kyle, we trust.
And we trust in the words of Danny White. So we will see. There's a lot to be done here at UCF, and we will see, I guess, what happens, and hopefully it's going to be good, and we got this bowl game coming up and all that. So the holidays are coming up. I know you're going to be busy at the Little Greek. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what people can do for the holidays if they want to have some Greek food involved in their holiday parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're putting together holiday catering packages right now. You can look online at www.littlegreekfreshgrill.com, and you can see all of our holiday catering packages. We also have gift cards for sale. For every $50 gift card that you purchase, we'll give you a $10 gift card for free. So we have some specials going on. It's a crazy time of year for us in some of our locations that are in the power centers, Winter Garden Village, obviously Waterford Lakes. So we're just thankful for all the support. But the reality of the situation is I feel like I've been living in a dream for the last 24 to 48 hours, and I know that tomorrow I got to walk back into the real world and get back into the restaurant. But it's been a phenomenal 48 hours. I'm so happy for where we are right now as a program, despite the loss of Coach Frost. And if you want to talk to me about it, and even if you want to sulk a little bit, or if you want to be excited about it, I'll be at the Waterford Lakes Little Greek every day this week except Tuesday. So
he sounds like in Charlie Brown when they have
talk a little UCF.
In Charlie Brown where they have the cup, put a nickel in for therapy.
Yeah. Well, hey, whatever you got to do, whatever people have to do, and that's a good person to talk to it about it. Kyle Israel, Kyle. We appreciate everything that you've done for us and been on here every week, and it's been an incredible season. It's not over yet. We still have a bowl game to talk about, and we still have a lot to talk about. It's not going to end very easily and quickly here, so we will talk to you next week, hopefully. So thank you very much.
All righty, guys. Thank you.
Blake Bortles comes up big in Nights in the Pros, and it's done dried up in News and Notes. Knightline, the perfect companion for your commute, or as Joshua shared with me on Twitter, on your flight, listening as he travels. Stay with us.
There are so many ways to connect with Knightline. You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast or follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline. Check out our website at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more. Or, of course, you can always call us at 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184. Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or tune in. Go Knights and charge on!
Now time for a look around the American featuring C. Austin Cox.
I'm C. Austin Cox, and this is your weekly wrap-up of what's happening around the American Athletic Conference now that the college football regular season is in the books, and we know where each team from the conference is headed this postseason. Leading the way after topping Memphis in a thrilling double overtime conference championship game on Saturday are the UCF Knights, which have been awarded a slot in the 2018 Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta on January 1st. Central Florida stands on the edge of history with the chance to record a 13-0 season if the Knights can knock off the Auburn Tigers. Speaking of Tigers, Memphis will be making its first appearance in the Liberty Bowl, which is actually held in the Tigers' own home stadium. Memphis will be facing the Iowa State Cyclones in that one, and it could be a tough one as ISU has already knocked off two top 5 teams with wins over both Oklahoma and TCU earlier this season. The USF Bulls will be making a return trip to the Birmingham Bowl. After beating the South Carolina Gamecocks last season, South Florida will try to make it 2 in a row, this time facing Texas Tech out of the Big 12. Navy, like Memphis, will be playing its bowl game at its home venue in Annapolis when the Midshipmen take on Bronco Mendenhall's Virginia Cavaliers in the Military Bowl. This is the second time Navy will play in the Military Bowl, having defeated Pittsburgh in 2015 and finishing the season at number 18 in the final AP and coaches polls that season. As for Houston, the Cougars will be saying aloha on Christmas Eve when the Cougars take on Fresno State out of the Mountain West as part of the 2017 Hawaii Bowl. This marks UH's third bowl trip to the Pacific Islands, having appeared in the Aloha Bowl in 1988 and in the Hawaii Bowl once before in 2003. SMU returns to postseason play for the first time since 2012 and for the first time as a member of the American Athletic Conference, as the Mustangs will travel a mere 35 minutes away from Dallas to play in the Frisco Bowl against Louisiana Tech, marking the first time Southern Methodist has faced the Bulldogs since 2004. Last but certainly not least is Temple, which will be bowling in head coach Jeff Collins' first year at the helm of the Owls program after finishing the regular season 6-6. Temple is making its third consecutive bowl appearance and will take on the FIU Golden Panthers in the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. That's what's happening on the college football side of things in the American Athletic Conference this week. For more on the American, you can catch me on the AAC Daily presented by Sling TV and BCSNN every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central. Now back to UCF Knightline with your hosts, Andrew Phegley and Trace Trylko.
All right, Knights in the pros. Jacksonville's Blake Bortles, 26 of 35 for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns as the Jags moved to 8-4 after beating Indy. Minnesota's Latavius Murray, 16 carries for 76 yards as the Vikings moved to 10-2 after beating Atlanta.
You know, what's interesting, by the way, is that the Giants benched Eli Manning, which seems crazy. The guy's won 2 Super Bowls. But, you know, Tom Coughlin's over there in Jacksonville. Where does Eli Manning end up if it's not going to work out with the Giants?
Yeah.
It's just something to watch for.
Yeah, it's already been said.
Knightline Planner, taking a quick look at the week ahead. You can tell we're in the holiday stretch now. Men's basketball back home 1 o'clock Saturday, December 9th against Southern. And women's basketball's back home too, Sunday, December 10th at 2 o'clock against Georgia Southern.
A lot of South going on there.
That's right.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Women's basketball falls to 4-4 after losing at Samford, 58-51. Congrats to rookie Massini Kaba, the league's freshman of the week.
Volleyball beats UNC Greensboro in volleyball's postseason NIT, but then loses to Georgia. Finishes the season 20-14 overall. Kia Bright named a unanimous first-team league selection for the season. Freshman Christina Fisher named the league's Offensive Player of the Week back-to-back weeks.
Rowing, assistant rowing coach Connie Kirsch, one of just 10 coaches in the country invited to attend the inaugural NCAA Coaches Academy.
Women's soccer goalkeeper Junior Vera Veras named an All-American by the United Soccer Coaches Association. Meantime, 5 Knights earned All-Southeast recognition from the same organization. First team kudos to Vera Veras, Kathleen Sousa, Morgan Ferrara, Kayla Adamek, and Dina Orshman earned second-team honors.
Softball announces its 2018 schedule, 41 games, including 20 at home at the UCF softball complex.
Baseball players received their league championship rings as demolition crews got to work on knocking down the press box as the stadium undergoes that transformation before the 2018 season.
That's going to be exciting to see. And finally, the pond is dry. UCF's iconic reflection pond, that is, drained for repairs and modernization, expected to remain empty until May, but the work is expected to be finished in time for next year's Spirit Splash. It's going to be an exciting time at UCF.
What does the week hold for us
I don't
at UCF?
know, but
I think about this as the signature program covering UCF, and our, we do Knightline Nows and we do things during the week because just so much happens. But this Sunday to Sunday when we record, and I just think about where we were last week and all that has happened.
This is good. This is the longest one that we've ever done, except for a live show, definitely.
Well, a lot to celebrate. I personally am happy. Big win, AAC champs, go to that Peach Bowl, and the rest will all sort itself out.
Yep. All right. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I am Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.